I know some people will judge me, but I don't care. I felt so unfulfilled that I cheated. I'm an ordinary woman wanting attention, affection, and warmth, basic desires everyone has. I'm just honest about my mistake because I'm not ashamed. My husband, John, was unfaithful from the start, but I was oblivious. We married 6 months after we met. John was wonderful, I saw no flaws. My parents liked him, and our wedding was the envy of everyone. We dated for 2 months before becoming intimate. I thought he was respecting my innocence. After a month, I told him I'd had previous sexual partners. He was embarrassed and admitted he was afraid of new relationships. It was unusual for me to be the one initiating intimacy, but I didn't push the subject. After 2 months, we finally had sex. It was amazing. After marriage, I moved into John's spacious apartment. I was a good wife, greeting him after work, cooking, and planning weekend activities. Everything was great except for one thing: we rarely made love. At first, I didn't notice, but after a few months, I realized I was always the one initiating intimacy. He never refused, but he never initiated it either. I wondered why, but I was afraid to ask. After a while, he started refusing me, citing fatigue or work. When intimacy became a once-a-month occurrence, I knew something was wrong. John acted normal, I suspected an affair, but saw no signs. He was as loving as ever, but it wasn't enough. I loved him and believed that intimacy was essential for a strong marriage. I was torn and unable to talk to him about it. One evening, I went to a cafe after work, upset and not wanting to face John's smiling face. I felt someone watching me and saw Tom, a former classmate. We talked, and I felt strangely drawn to him. I was aroused and couldn't control it. Tom noticed, smiled, and took my hand. I suggested we go somewhere more private. I immediately regretted it, but Tom held me back, and we went to his place. It was incredible. Afterward, I promised myself it wouldn't happen again, but I couldn't delete his number. At home, John greeted me warmly, but I felt guilty and wanted to wash off Tom's scent. In the shower, I thought about what to do. I tried to initiate intimacy with John, but his love felt platonic. I needed the passion Tom provided, which John seemed incapable of giving. That night, I realized I couldn't live like that, but I didn't want to leave John either. In the morning, I knew I would lead a double life. I called Tom, and soon we were together again. At home, things were excellent. John saw a change in me, I was calm and balanced. We had a perfect relationship, with intimacy once every 3 or 4 weeks. John was happy, believing we had complete understanding in bed. Only I knew it was thanks to Tom. Everything would have continued if Tom hadn't confessed his love. I wasn't ready for that. He knew I was married. I didn't want to tell him about my issues with John, but he knew things weren't perfect. I couldn't explain my love for John, he wouldn't understand. I couldn't reveal John's shortcomings. Tom began pressing for details about my marriage. I answered some questions carefully, avoiding others, and trying to change the subject or seduce him. Meeting him became harder, his questions annoyed me, but not seeing him was unbearable. Only he gave me the release I needed. At home, I enjoyed John's affection. This went on for 4 months, then Tom became aggressive, demanding explanations and asking who I loved more. He gave me an ultimatum: tell John everything and stay with him, or end things with him. I panicked. I didn't want to lose either of them. I loved John, but I needed Tom physically. I asked Tom to wait, knowing I was delaying the inevitable. I would never leave John, and if he found out about Tom, he would have to forgive me. He would understand my needs. Maybe things would even improve between us. Tom waited, but he grew more irritable. He wanted to be seen with me publicly. He demanded a divorce, convinced I loved him, not John. Then, I knew I couldn't delay our breakup any longer. 7 months after we began, I told Tom it was over. I expected anger, but he was calm and just smiled. He listened to my long explanation and asked if I was sure and if I would regret it. Of course, I was sure.